Timotab, and today I'm going to solve coordinate arrows by Fill the Hat. If you would like to try this puzzle for yourself, it'll be the first link in the description. Let's have a look at the rules. Normal Sudoku rules, so we're going to place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every box. The sum of two digits along an arrow must equal the digit in the cell at row X, column Y, where X is the first digit on the arrow and Y is the second, the arrow tip. So if this were a 3 and this were a 4, then in row 3, column 4, we would place a 7, which is the sum of 3 and 4. That's how the arrows work. No two arrows reference the same coordinate. So if this were a 3, 4, this could not be a 3 and 4. All right. Clues outside the grid equal the sum of all the digits in that row or column sandwiched between 1 and 9. So if this were 1, 6, 8, and 9 here, for example, then between the 1 and the 9 we have a 6 and an 8, which equals 14, and that would be a valid way to fill the sandwich clue. The two digits separated by a white dot differ by 1. So if that were a 2, this would be a 3 or a 1. With that, I am going to restart the puzzle to reset the timer, and let's begin. Okay, let us think. So this box looks interesting. So okay, I can't put a 9 anywhere on an arrow, because as soon as I do that, the sum of the arrow is going to be greater than 9. And that's not a valid Sudoku digit. So the 9 has to not go in an arrow. And if I were to put a 2 here, then necessarily there would be an 8 that would be on one of these other ones, which would also sum to greater than 9. The only way that I could have a digit other than 1 in here and not have a conflict with my 8 and would be to have 8 in the center and 1 on one of the arrow, the starts of the arrow. And that would mean that there would be some other digit. In fact, all the other digits would then be summing to more than 9. So that has to be a 1. Okay, I'm going to come back to this in a moment because I think there's something sort of global going on. Right. Let's have a look at this one that we were looking at earlier. If that were a 3 and that were a 4. Now, that means that in row 3, column 4, I need to place a 7 because we're saying that this is where this is the row number, this is the column number. But because this is the row number and this is the column number, that means that if a cell is referenced in this grid by one of the arrows, then the digit in that cell must be its own row and column number because those are the two digits on the arrow. So what that means is if this cell is referenced somewhere on the grid, it must be a reference by a 1, 1 cell and it must have a value of 2. So I'm going to color that in. This would either be referenced by a 1, this would be referenced by a 1, 2 arrow, this would be referenced by a 2, 1 arrow, so it would have to be have a value of 3. These cells would either be 1, 3, 2, 2, or 1, 4, 1, 3, sorry. So that would have a value of 4. Likewise, these would have a value of 5. These would be 6. These would be 7. Let's try that again. These would be 8. these would be 9. And I can't reference any other cell on the grid. But that's going to be interesting because as soon as I place a 4 here, say, because I have a 1, 3 arrow somewhere, I'm not going to be able to place another 4 in this box by the rules of Sudoku, so I can then remove the coloring from the other 2 cells because we know that they are no longer referenceable. And that's going to help us restrict where which digits can go on arrows, given that each arrow references a unique cell. No 2 arrows reference the same coordinate. Right. Now, somewhere on here, we have a 2. Actually, before I do that, this 9 means that that can't be a 9, and therefore it can't be a referenced cell. Those can't be referenced cells. This 1 means that that can't be a... that wouldn't be a 1 anyway. Never mind. Okay, so somewhere on here there is a 2. That means that there is a 2, 1 arrow in this grid, which places a 3 in row 2, column 1. So now that can't be a 3. Somewhere in here there's going to be a 4. Sorry, a 3. 3's next. That places a 4 in row 1, column 3. No, row 3, column 1. Need to make sure I get that right. Somewhere in here there is a 4. That means that in row 4, column 1, there will be a 5. There's going to be a 6 there, a 7 there, and an 8 there. Now that allows me to remove those and those as potential referenced cells. Yeah, there's going to be an 8, so that's going to place a 9 there. Row 8, column 1. So this is a 1, 9 pair. No, that's a 1, 2 pair. That's better. Okay. So those 2 between them are referencing something in these rows. All right. Okay. That can't be a 1 because it would repeat the row 5, column 1 that we've got in here. Row 5 is this row. So it can't be a 2 because I can't place a 7 there. So it could be a 3. In fact, the only digit that can be is a 3 because that's the only cell in row 5 that's still referenceable. So that must be a 3. That must be an 8. That removes that from being referenceable. Okay. That places an 8 in one of those 3. Places a 3 in one of those. All right. What else? Okay. So apart from cells in this box, the highest digit now that can go on an arrow, on the start of an arrow, is 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I could have a 4-4 arrow somewhere, which would place an 8 there. Um, but that would be the only 4 that's possible. So if the tip and the tail don't see each other, I could place a 4. But if the tip and the tail do see each other, the maximum I can place on the tail of the arrow is a 3. Those see each other, those don't see each other, but that can't be a 4. Okay, that could be useful. But these tails are all from 1, 2, and 3, which gives me a 1, 2, 3 triple here. That one can be 1, 2, 3, or 4. Oh, this is a 1, 2, or 3. In fact, it's not a 1 or a 3. That's a 2. And now this 2 in the red is not a 7, clearly. So that can't be a reference cell. So this must be 3, 4, 6, or 7, which seems a lot to pencil mark, so I'm not going to just yet. Okay, this 0 clue is, I think, where I need to look next. So none of these can be a 1 or a 9 because I have a 1 or 9 there. This 0 clue tells me that my 1 and my 9 are next to each other in the row. So that can't be a 1 or a 9 because it would require that one to be. Therefore, my 1 and 9 are 2 adjacent digits in these 3 cells. And that necessarily means that this is either 1 or 9, but I can't put a 9 on an arrow ever, so that has to be a 1. But 2 through 8 are already used there, so that can't be 2 through 8. That must be a 1. That is now a 2, and this is a 1. So this 2 is in fact referenced by this arrow. And now that's not a 1, and that's not a 1, so that is that's not a 1. One is in one of those two. 2 is in fact right there because of this 2-3 pair. Okay, this 9 clue. Yes, this 9 clue. Clearly a 9 clue needs at least 2 digits because it would have to, if it were one digit, it would be a 9, but we're already using the 9 for the outside of the sandwich. So that places a 9 in one of these two cells. If that 9 weren't there, it could go there with a 2, 3, 4, but that 9 is there, so it can't. So that's going to be a 9 there. And these two digits will add up to 9. That places a 9 in one of these two because I can't place it on the arrow. Okay, this 8 clue, I can't place a 1 in any of those or that one. So it's 1 is there or there. But if the 1 were there, then this cell couldn't exist because I've already got all of my 1 column allocated to arrows. So that's a 1. I now have a 1 cell sandwich for 8, so that must be the 8. Now that can't be an 8, and therefore it cannot be referenced. Okay. And now 4, 4 is gone and can't be referenced, so that can't be a 4 because that was the only possible place for 4, 4. These two cells are necessarily different because otherwise they would be referencing the same cell. Okay. How many arrows do we have in total? We have 8 in here. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in here. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 outside. So that's a total of 17. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there. So that's 9 left. And I could fit 2 more into box 1, 5 more. Hang on, didn't count that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 17. That's 8 left. And I can fit, I could fit 2 more in here. 2, 3, 4, 5 in there, and 2 in there. So we're reasonably well constrained. Okay. What do I look for next? Is it Sudoku or a... Okay, this can't be a 1 because 9 is going to be in one of those two, which would require either a 0 or 1 digit to make 14. So that can't be a 1. And to make 14 in 2 cells, there are 2 ways. There's 8, 6 and there's 9, 5. But I can't do 9, 5 because I've already using the 9 for the outer part of the sandwich, and I can't do 8, 6 because that's an 8. So therefore I must have at least 3 cells to make my 14, and that must therefore be a 9. Okay. And this is the one. Right. That places a 1 up there by Sudoku. Okay, I have a 9 in one of those two for this 0 clue. This 0 clue means that, yes, we kind of already discussed that. We placed the 1, we hadn't then followed up and put a 9 in one of those two. That could be the 9 for that 0, but it doesn't have to be. This 8 is these two cells. This cell for this clue can have a, if it were 2, 3, so we could go as little as 3, and in fact 3, 2 would also work. Place a 5 there, so that could be as little as 2. In fact, it can't be a 2. So that's 3 minimum and a maximum of 6. Is that right? 7. But 7's there, so that's 3, 4, 5, or 6. 3, 4, 5, or 6, not 2, because of that 7. Okay, so this, well, that can't be a 4, because that would then be a 4. So that's 3 or 5, and then the 6 would require a 2. But that can't be okay, that can't be a 2, so that can't be a 6. That's a 3, 5 pair. That 3, 5 means that that is a 2, and this is a 3, and that's not a 3. Okay, so this 2 is row 2. That's either placing a 5 here, row 2, column 5. I can't place a 7 there, so that must be a 3. And that row 2, column 3 places a 5 there. Now that can't be referenced. Three, 3 could be referenced by this cell still, if it went that way. Okay, so this, in fact, let's place the 5 there. That can still be a 9, and so can that. Okay. So this has to be 4 or 6. It can't be a 5 by Sudoku. This in row 2 has to be 4, 6, or 7. So it's not going to be an 8. This in row 1 can be 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. So that's 4, 5, 6, or 7. Can't be an 8. This in row 1 is also going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, but can't be 8. That can't be a 1. In fact, Yes, there's another way to look at it, is that that can't be referenced. Two ways to look at it. There is no arrow that starts with a 1 that could be an 8, and that 9 is looking up there at that cell, so that can't be referenced. Okay. What am I missing? Is it this? There's either a 5 or a 7 on there, because I need an odd number and I can't place 1, 9, or 3. So that's from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Don't see how that's helpful just yet. Two in this column is in one of those three. Okay, these 3 digits are 2, 4, and 9. That can't be a 9 because of this, so that's the 9. That makes that a 2, 4 pair, and this 2 tells me the order. So that's a 4. That's a 2. So now this is saying that in row 2 or 3, column 4, we're placing a 6 or a 7. So either that's a 6 or that's a 7 because of this. That can't be a 4, because if it were, it would be the same as this arrow. But I don't see that that's particularly helpful. These 2 digits, though, are 5 and 6. And we know the order, 6 and 5. Okay. That doesn't eliminate any pink cells. Um, 8 in this box goes in one of those 2 cells, making that an 8-9 pair. These 2 cells then must be 4 and 7. I can't see that we know the order for that. And these 2 must be 2 and 3. These 3 then are 4, 6, and 7. Okay, this 2 is looking, is this arrow. So in this row, that has to be 4, 6, or 7. We already have a 2, 3 somewhere. Yes, over here. Okay. Yes, that's still eligible to be a 6. So that seems reasonable. This 9 clue. Here we go. That's probably going to be a useful thing to do. So these 2 digits have to sum to 9. So 7 would go with a 2, which it can't. 6 would go with a 3, which it can't. So that is a 4-5 pair. And now this has to have a 7 on it, which means that it is a 7-8 pair or a 7-6. 6, 7, or 8. Oh, this 4-5 is making that 6. There we go. So 3, 9 is now used. Row 3, column 9. That's a 9. Sorry, row 3, column 6. So that removes 6 from here. And then row 1, column 4 or 5. Still looks reasonable. This 2 is looking down here. That's probably been there a while. That's a 3. So 3, 4 is a 7. Row 3, column 4 is a 7. That now can't be a referenced cell. That 7 removes a 7 from here. So row 1, column 6 can't be referenced. This is row 3. So that has to be 3 or 5. Okay. That's not a 3. So the remaining digits in this box are 2, 6, 7. And that one's not a 2. That could still be a 9, and so could that. Have I got any more? Well, yeah, I do. 14 in 3 digits without a 9 or an 8. So that would be 7 plus 2 digits that sum to 7, which couldn't be 3, 4, so it could be 7, 2, 5 would work. 6 and 2 digits that sum to 8. Couldn't do 6, 2, 6 because that'd be repeating 6s. So 6, 3, 5, which I can't do because of this 3. So is 7, 2, 5 the only way I can do that? Okay, if I don't have a 2 in it, then, and I clearly don't have a 3, then 4, 5, 6 is the smallest I can have. And 4, 5, 6 is 15. Okay, so I definitely have a 2 there. I do not have a 3. So if it's 2, 4, well, if I definitely have a 2, then that's not a 2, and that's a 2. This 4 is looking down here. That's a 5. That's probably some easier stuff to do. 1, 5. Row 1, column 5 is referencing that. That's a 6. That removes 6 from here. We've actually got a 4 in the column. That's now a 7. So let's do the 2, 6. That is referencing the 8 in this cell, which makes that a 1. And the 2, 7 is referencing a 9 in this cell. So that can't be an 8. that can't be referenced. And that means that that can't be a 5 because that can't be referenced. So that is 3, 3. That makes that a 6. Okay, that can't be a 5 because I've already got a 1, 5, and it could be a 7 or it could be a 4. It's going to be one of those two. Okay, this 3 is looking up, but that's a 2, that's a 3. This 8 is looking down, that's a 7, that's an 8. That's now a 2. So we know that there's a 2 in there, in fact in one of those two, in fact in that cell by Sudoku. So 2, if there were a 4 with it, that would be 6 and I would need another 8, but I can't do that. There's not a 4 in there and that makes that a 4. So 1, 4 is a 5. And I think that's going to be all of my arrows. So I'll remove that. That 7 is looking down, that's a 6. That's a 7. These two digits are now 5 and 7, which are sum to 12, making the 14 with the 2. And that's the 5 and that's the 7 by Sudoku. This is now a 5. This is that's an 8. I need a 4 and a 6 in here, which I can resolve. That's not 4 or 6, that is a 7. This by the column is 4 or 6, but by the box is not a 6, so that's a 4. That makes that a 6, which makes that 4. This digit must be a 3. Okay. This 9 has completed my 0 clue, so that is an 8. By Sudoku, that is 4, that's 7, that's 9. This digit here is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 9. That's the 8. That is a 1. This cell must be 5. These two are 6 and 7, I think. Yep. So that's the 6, that's the 7. And these three are 3, 4, and 8, which go 3, 4, and 8. That's a super fun puzzle. Realizing the restrictions on the arrows to the upper left half, roughly, of the grid. I think that was a really good insight, and I really like this break-in here. Yeah, no, that's a good puzzle, and I enjoyed it a lot. If you like this solve, then please hit the like button. You can subscribe to see some more, and I would love to hear comments. I'm looking forward to next time. Be seeing you.